Welcome, Wastelanders, to New Mexico, where the ants are monsters and the cops, well, they wear bow ties. This odd counterbalance runs throughout the film, where we have sci-fi and we have boots-on-the-ground detective work. We have doddering older generation, where, they can't figure out how to wear goggles for some reason. Yet we have the ambition and drive of youth. What comes from these disparate parts is not a volatile sum, but steadiness and precision. It's not pulp, it's thoughtful. Don't laugh and cluck, or cluck and laugh. See for yourself. We watched.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Pod Never Changes, the podcast where we go and watch a bunch of movies that are a lot like Fallout, and we judge how Fallout they are with our great rating system to basically find the most Fallout movie of all time. Yes, that is Fallout, the video game franchise, post-apocalyptic RPG series, and also an Amazon Prime TV show. In its second season. We're waiting a long time for the third season, apparently. I'm your host, LJ, this week, and I'm here with my fellow host.
I am Ricky.
Who is it? It's Ricky.
Your co-pilot, your co-host.
Hello. How are you doing?
Hey, we asked each other at the same time. I'm doing good. How are you?
Yeah, good. Are you ready to venture into a landscape of giant ants?
What, New Mexico? Sure.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Yes.
I'm excited.
So what we'll be going through, we'll touch on a little bit of our sort of background on as Fallout fans. Sometimes that's a little bit of our history with the franchise, what we think is our favorite video game, character. We're also doing a little thing where we're building our ideal Fallout movie as well, so we might come back to that today. We'll give you a little bit of background on the film. This week it is 1954's Them, and then a little bit about our great rating system, a la the special rating system in Fallout, and then we just run through the film and we just pick apart anything and everything to do with Fallout, and we just rack up points in our great system. Find out how Fallout this movie actually is, before a little bit of our thoughts on the movie in general, how we might mod the game how we might mod the films into the games, and then we'll pick our next movie to pick apart. To start off with, then, I've got a Fallout question for you this week.
Hit me with it.
I figured I'd pick up. I asked you about if you were a producer and you're making a Fallout movie. Obviously, we've got the TV series. I asked you who your go-to director would be, and who your star would be. Whether it's a Vault Dweller or whatever else it is. So you went with Charlie Brooker of Black Mirror fame. As your director. I went with Sam Raimi, obviously, of Evil Dead, Spider-Man. Do you remember who you had as your...
Was it Rachel McAdams as my lead?
It was, yeah. You did also float the name Nick Cage as well.
I think if there's a father figure, he's doing... And I think we're going to talk about this in this movie later. I think he does Weird Dad very well.
Okay.
So
yeah. All right. Yeah. So I've got his name floating around for you there. I'm keeping track of this movie that we're building. I had Tobey Maguire to go along with my Sam Raimi lead to bring the duo back together. This week we're going to build on top of this a little bit. So bearing in mind this is movie, right? So you're not building your ideal video game setup, but each of the Fallout games, they've got their own premise. You know, Fallout 1, you're a vault dweller who, you know, your vault's water chip is broken and you have to head out into the wasteland to find one. Fallout 3, your dad runs away from the vault. You got to go find him.
Mm-hmm.
New Vegas, you get shot in the head by Matthew Perry, and you got to go chase him down or do whatever you want. Anyway, so those are the premises of premises. Anyway,
Premisi?
those are the premisi of the Fallout games. What would be your premise for your movie, bearing in mind that you are a producer who's trying to make a successful Fallout movie?
Well, you've kind of started it there, but you've kind of not said the whole thing. And I think I'm going to lean into the start and not the whole thing, which is to say, it is revenge upon Matthew Perry shooting you in the head. It is going to find your dad. It is finding your missing kid and all these things, or water chip. That is the premise, and that is your mission. But it's always bigger and greater than that, right? So a bit like how they've done that in the TV show of she's going to find her dad, who's been kidnapped, and then it's much bigger than that.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the much bigger than that is, but you know what I want? It's family member. No, it's not. Yes, it is. Okay.
I'm putting you on the spot, like, you know, this idea.
Right. I want Rachel McAdams, right? I want more Rachel McAdams. I want twin sister, twin magic.
Oh, okay.
And it gets bigger than that. I mean, throw it out here right now. Twin sisters probably what do you call them? Robots. God damn. Brains.
Oh, a synth.
It's probably a synth, or one of them's a synth, but we don't know who.
Okay.
But that's revealed as you go into the wasteland, and so on and so on and so forth.
And so, are you starting in the vault?
You're starting in the vault. Your twin sister is kidnapped or whatever by some shady people, broken into. You want to go and rescue her.
Okay.
That's it. So that's the mission.
Is there any way? I guess the synth element might play into this, but is there any way that your director links in with the premise that you're going with? Or would that relate to maybe some of the subsequent questions I might have for you when we continue to build out this movie?
I think so, in as much as old CB is always doing in Black Mirror about the dark side of technology, and I guess the kind of shallowness of life and reality. And so I think there's plenty of room for that in terms of the Fallout idea of the everything's fine and great and classic apple pie America, right? And everything's good, and it's actually the surface is not that deep, right? And there's something under it all the time that is more sinister, and that could be the Institute, that could be anything, that could be, I don't know, an anti-institute. I don't know, but but yeah, like that. Okay. I feel like he could do that. What about you? What's your at least do we say inciting incident?
Yeah, I feel like you do have to kind of just stay in the vault. I think if you were going with you're a real world producer making a Fallout movie, you'd kind of get caught into the Bethesda trap of like having to have it vault centered, which it doesn't have to be, right? Like of the mainline games, 3 out of 4 of them have been vault centered, but I think I'd go with vault for the familiarity. But because I've got Sam Raimi, I think I would have a vault in which the inciting incident creates a horror scenario. My thought is something along the lines of a death claw breaking in somehow, and you get a kind of alien-like opening that, you've got these vault dwellers who are living a nice and peaceful life, and then suddenly power cuts out. It's dark. It's scary. You've got the death claw, but obviously with Sam Raimi, there's going to be that element of humor, which I think you want to tease out throughout the rest of the film.
Yeah.
So,
can I pitch something?
Go on.
You've seen Army of Darkness, right? Sam Raimi?
Yeah.
Which ending did you get?
Oh,
There's two. I think there was one. Or was there three? But there was one that was, which I think a lot of people like. So the premise is he goes back in time. He's, he needs the Book of the Dead to have a curse lifted or whatever, and get sent back to the future, right, back to the time he's from, because he's gone back to the medieval, hence the medieval dead they call it and stuff. But great, he gets it, and he goes back to the future. It's all fine. He's all happy, but a deadite has followed him there, and there's just a scene of him kicking some ass and being groovy. Great. The other version is he has to take like 4 drops, and then he'll fall asleep for 400 years or something, and then he wakes up, right? And he's meant to wake up with a big beard and whatever, hidden in a cave. That's how he gets back to his time.
I didn't have that.
So what happens is he sleeps, he's distracted, and I think maybe he takes a drop too many. And he wakes up, instead of back in his time, he wakes up at the end of the world. And it's like, he wakes up, he gets outside, and everything's on fire, and there's ruins everywhere.
Oh, God. No! I slept too long!
And I'm thinking, could you do something like that if you keep it in the vault, but whether it's you have to get out now because that's the only thing you can do because of the Deathclaw, or perhaps like with the water chip, it's there's a reason to leave, and maybe you overstayed your mission, and it's either you didn't know it was the end of the world, or it's like beyond the usual Fallout thing, or it could just be that you have to get outside and this is the first time you've seen it. It's a wasteland. OMG.
Yeah, I mean, I think you could kind of play into that by doing what Fallout 4 does, right? Where you're cryogenically frozen. You kind of wake up to, you get it in sort of space sci-fi sometimes as well, where, character wakes up to a deserted or dead ship, or, like some kind of creature lurking around. So that's definitely a way of going about it. Yeah, I'd be open to that. It would definitely be the inciting point to get out of the vault.
Yeah, I thought that would just be the end. I just thought finally we're out of the vault. Oh, could you do a backdoor or a stealth Fallout movie? So you don't know it's Fallout until you get outside and you see. You just think
there's a movie that's like that. I don't want to say what it is. 'Cause it'll spoil the movie, but yeah.
I'm thinking people are just somewhere underground, and then they get outside finally, when it's just like, then they finally say, "I'm glad we got out of that vault."
I think what I definitely want to play into with that setup and Raimi at the helm is like, you have that horror element, so you legitimately play into the horror, but the character starts off as this, and having just I watched Send Help most recently. I think the first episode in which we discussed this, I asked you if you'd seen it. Have you seen it since?
I've still not seen it.
The setup, obviously, with Rachel McAdams, you have a character that starts off, very kind of innocent and wide-eyed. And I think and you get that with, Evil Dead to a certain extent as well. This character suddenly is doing some, wild shit.
Forced to their limit.
Yeah, and actually it reminds me of the TV show as well, right? Ella Purnell's... what's her character's name? Lucy?
Lucy, yeah.
Yeah. She's, like this wide-eyed, sort of seemingly innocent lass, and then is suddenly thrown into the wasteland. So I definitely want to use that as a setup to then get out there and really get bloody and gory and kill all of these, mutants and whatever else is out in the wasteland. But yeah, you're right. I feel like it would be a nice setup to a second movie almost, where at the end, the end is getting out of the vault, and that's when it's like the real shit hits the fan. You've just got maybe a high, I'm just imagining like a drone shot as the character comes out of just all these various different creatures coming at you, and you're cocking your gun and about to go ham. But yeah, that's my inciting incident is you're in the vault, everything's fine and dandy, and then boom, a Deathclaw horror sequence, and in a bloody fashion you get yourself out and you're out into the wasteland.
I like it. So
cool.
Tell me about them.
Them. Okay, so 1954, directed by Gordon Douglas, who I've not watched any of his other films. Very much director of that era. A lot of like noir crime kind of movies from then. And have you seen any of his?
There's a bunch on my list. I think The Detective we mentioned before because it's based on the same series of books, or that Die Hard is based on.
Oh, yeah. Okay, gotcha. But yeah, directed by Gordon Douglas. You can kind of see an element of the other movies that he's directed where there's a sort of noirish crime element to it. Not quite noir in this, but it's got that kind of era vibe to it a little. Starring James Whitmore, James Arness, Joan Weldon, and Edmund Gwenn. Of those, I think James Whitmore is probably the only one that I've seen in a couple of movies. In Shawshank Redemption.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's older. He's older then.
Yeah, exactly. Different era.
He is in Planet of the Apes.
Yes, yeah, exactly. So he's probably the bigger name of the cast. Budget wise, it's a question mark. We don't know what the budget is. Box office wise, all of the numbers are seemingly home release, like rentals. So it's not clear whether it had a wide release or not. But it did $2.2 million in rentals. So at the time, very small movie. But
is that adjusted? Is that
no?
Really?
No. So yeah, not like a big blockbuster movie as such, but it was reviewed fairly positively at the time. Still is now. It's kind of regarded very well. So despite it being kind of small-ish at the time, it's sort of snowballed into a bit of an iconic movie. Reviews-wise, where do you think we're sitting at Rotten Tomatoes, critics, audience?
Critics, I think it's too much to ask, but I'd like to know what the oldest and the most recent ones are in terms of kind of getting an aggregate idea here. But I think it was positive. I think out of 100 critics, I'm going to go critics 70, audience 80.
Interesting. It's the other way around, but the numbers are higher.
Really?
Yeah, it's a 93% on critics and a 77% on with the audience. On IMDb, it's a 7.2 out of 10, and Letterboxd, it's a 3.5 out of 5. So yeah, it's a well liked movie. So we'll get to how we felt about it once we find out how Fallout it is. Trivia wise, other few little bits kind of related to the casting. There's someone who makes a cameo as a US staff sergeant in the communications room. Did you see his name floating around? Or their face?
I saw the name, but then I thought, is it a cameo or is it just an early gig?
I think it's an early gig, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Was it Leonard Nimoy, right?
It is, yeah, Leonard Nimoy. And then beyond that, the other thing that I kind of registered it subconsciously, but I don't know if you noticed this. The movie's in black and white.
Yes.
But the opening title, interestingly, is in a splash of red.
Blue and red, I did notice, yeah.
Yeah.
Apparently it was, they wanted it to be, it was planned to be in colour, and then budgetary reasons, they said it's going to be black and white. So they've got the colour title, the splash of them, and the rest of it they just kept in black and white.
Yeah, exactly. And then the last piece is just that the Wilhelm scream is used several times throughout the movie, which is that classic stock scream that was around from the 50s onwards.
It's the same scream for several different people.
Yeah.
Including a main actor whose voice we've heard. But I guess we hadn't heard him scream, so that's fine.
You gonna tell us a little bit about the rating system?
The rating system, the great rating system. The grating system? No, let's not call it that. So we're talking about great. That's GREAT. A bit like special, it's like attributes or whatever. They're just different points that we're using to score this movie. So G is for genre. R is for the random specifics. E is for environment. A is for aesthetic. And T is for tribes. I'll explain what those mean, but the idea here is that when we are recapping the movie, or when we were even watching the movie, when we see something that relates to one of these, we give it a point, and we count up those points, and then we get a total score there. It is capped at a maximum of 6 per point, per kind of attribute or subset, or if you want to call it. So for genre, we can get a maximum of 6. For the random specifics, we get a maximum of 6 and so on. This means that there's a total of 30, and that's how we use to rank the movie. We can say it's really Fallout movie because it's 30 out of 30, that type of thing. If there's anything particularly not Fallout, we give it a debuff. So the same thing. The example we give here normally is in Mad Max 2, The Road Warrior. Or is it Mad Max 2, Road Warrior? There's a lot of car chases, and vehicles, car chases like that just aren't very Fallout. You don't get them, they don't function. So we gave it a -1 debuff for that. So anything that's particularly not very Fallout, we give it a debuff. But what do we mean by genre, random specifics, etc.? So genre, it's the many direct or referenced Fallout genres, as well as things like plot points and like quests, these types of things. So it could be that it's a Western, it could be that you're saving your family member, that type of thing. That's very
include, like the humor and dialogue in there as well.
Humor and dialogue, you think, as well?
Yeah.
Okay, into genre. Yeah, if it's a comedy, yeah, the right fit in terms of genre. Yeah. We're also going to go random specifics. That's R. So they're the super specific things that are just so Fallout. They are things such as perks, dialogue, and gameplay mechanisms. So one example is we were watching Urban Warriors, and there are mutations that allow someone to be solar powered. You know, that kind of thing. Yeah, that's kind of a random specific that is very Fallout for us.
Specific perk. Yeah.
Very specific perk, yeah. E, environment. So it's the world and the world building lore. So yes, locations, but it's also, is it post-apocalypse? These types of things as well. You can have a wasteland in the modern non-apocalypse, but you can also have a post-apocalyptic wasteland, these types of things. It could also be, well, I think we'll get into it later, but very specific things that you find in certain cities and stuff like that you see and you go, man, that's real Fallout. A is aesthetic, so these are inventory items, clothing. It could also be the sound, the aesthetic of the gore as part of the aesthetic. These kind of things that you find. So it could be that you see a bunch of pre-war food. It could be you're hearing country music. It could be a specific outfit, or the fact that there's an exploding Deathclaw. I don't know, these types of things.
Yeah.
T is for tribes. So these are the groups and individuals that populate the movie. So not just tribes as in groups, it is individuals. So are they distinct groups? Are they specifically raiders? Are they raider-like? Are they called raiders? Do we see underground agents of a devious pseudo-government? That's usually what I say there. Is there a dog companion, right? Do you recognize a specific sci-fi robot, that type of thing? Those are the tribes. So once again, genre, random specifics, environment, aesthetic, tribes, and of course any kind of Fallout debuffs. Hopefully you'll pick it up as we go along, but as we recap the movie, we're going to be basically throwing in that genre, that's random, and so on.
I'm sure we'll have great debates as to what one point fits into. That's usually the argument that we have is, does this count as a random specific? Is this an aesthetic? I don't know. We'll find out.
Okay, so let me tell you about them. As LJ already said, we get a black and white shot of the desert, but for some reason we got a color logo with them. Opens with like an orchestral sting. It's very excitable. Straight off the bat, desert. Is that?
I didn't think. Yeah, initially I wasn't like, didn't jump on it straight away because I knew it wasn't a post-apocalyptic wasteland. But as the movie goes on more and more, it looks exactly like the Mojave Desert. So I had that down as an environment.
Wow, straight in. There's not even been any dialogue. No. Okay, so it was still in the credits. So after the credits, we see an airplane coming into screen. It says it's a New Mexico police plane. It comes into view and it's flying along with and talking to over the radio a big black police car which contains Sergeant Ben Peterson and Trooper Ed. They're looking for something. I can't tell specifically what they are, if it's what they find, mainly because their language right here is very 1950s. Did you find that?
Yeah.
It was a bit, hey, so-and-so, and it's, oh, okay, whatever. But what they do find is that the plane spots a kid in a bathrobe and pajamas wandering alone through the desert. The cop car pulls up and they call to the kid, but she's kind of expressionless and traumatized and just continues walking. The sergeant, so Sergeant Peterson, he tries talking to her, gets nothing. The pilot, who's flying overhead, radios down to the car and tells him he's spotted a trailer down the road. Might be related. They go to investigate. The trailer looks fine up the front when they get to it, but then they get behind and they see it's all torn up. It's missing a wall, these types of things, and there's debris and all sorts everywhere. They do a bit of investigating. They find that there's some blood, and it's 10 to 12 hours old, so it must have happened last night or this morning. That is plot information for you. They find a pistol and some sugar cubes, and then they figure that there are no tire marks, so a car couldn't have done this. They find some strange footprints, not human. They think it might be a mountain lion, but they're probably not around here, so it must be something else. An investigation team shows up and takes photos and some impressions of the footprint. There's also an ambulance for the kid. There's a strange high-pitched sound. They kind of just toss it off as it's probably the wind. The two cops decide to head to Gramp Jones's store to see if he knows anything. So what are we thinking so far in terms of we're out in the desert, there's a bit of a mystery going, and we meet a couple of characters?
Well, I've got a question for you to kind of start off answering that. Is what were your expectations with them? Had you seen it before? No. I thought I might have. I thought it might have been an MST3K thing, but it wasn't. No, I hadn't seen it before. And then from a Fallout perspective, what were you think? Like, what were you expecting? Were you expecting it to be a very Fallout movie?
I was thinking it to be quite campy.
Yeah.
Because it's giant ants, and there's no surprise about it being giant ants. And also on the poster, I'm pretty sure it's got giant ants, and it's got like like when the eyes have like pupils like a cartoon person. I thought it would be sillier. So it being them trying to investigate what's happening and trying to find who's been murdered was quite interesting.
Yeah, it's a bit more of a slow burn, right? Funny thing about the cover is that on the cover it looks like the ants have cat eyes, whereas in the movie they do have just regular ant eyes. I think they just did that for dramatic effect. But anyway, I asked you that because I kind of was wary of how Fallout this movie actually would be. I know that there's a specific connection which we'll touch on soon enough, but the opening kind of surprised me. I had a few bits that were Fallout-esque. So we have the desert as the Mojave. The quest, or rather the plot starts off with a kid, just like the quest that this movie inspired, which is the Fallout 3 quest, Those, where the character Brian Wilkes, a kid in that case, runs up to you as you're exploring the wasteland and tells you of some giant ants that have been terrorizing his little settlement of Greyditch, and that kind of incites the quest. So that was a random specific point there. A lot of the stuff related to that quest will pop up later on, and I'll maybe give a little bit of background on the quest at some point as well. But do you remember that one?
I do. I was thinking, does it count as genre because it's referenced specifically? But yeah, help save my family from ants. But I guess she wasn't saying help save my family from ants, this little kid that's in the desert.
Yeah, so I think later on I do have, as the plot kind of unfolds more, I do have a point in genre that relates to the quest. I think this is more even specifically within the quest. The way that the sort of inciting incident occurs is triggered by a child.
Let's do it. Throw it in. Also, aesthetic-wise, it's starting what will turn out to be very aesthetically, I think, as we go. The ambulance looks just like the ambulances in Fallout 4. The investigation team, the guy is in a pinstripe suit, and he's got a flashbulb camera, which turn up everywhere.
Okay, so I guess we can kind of jump ahead with this in a way, because I've got a point in there later on, which is just for pre-war aesthetics all around. Whether it's the plane, the ambulance, the cars, the clothes, the dialogue, just because of the time in which this movie is set.
There's a scene where there's lots of people watching the TV and listening to the radio, and the military are driving in, and they're just looking at the radio and looking at the military, and you're just getting a view of like just people in a malt shop, you know, and then the old aesthetic of the radio and all their outfits. It's just like, aesthetic wise, this it has it down. But it's a broad one. It's broad and it's specific and broad.
So, yeah. I think it would almost dominate. Like if you start counting each individual thing, it would max out the aesthetics quite quickly.
Let's start a different one for weapons, because there's definitely some weapons in here.
Yeah.
This is I had to look it up. It's a cult detective special that they find. I think it turns out the guy in the trailer was a FBI agent. We'll get into that in a bit, but that's why it's a detective special, I guess. But I don't think there's a cult, but there are like 32s and stuff like that, so it's got that vibe of a small revolver pistol, right?
Yeah, and then I also had the abandoned, ruined location of the caravan. It's very much like a lot of the caravans you come across. And I think it's noteworthy just because this isn't a post-apocalyptic movie. You have that aesthetic.
But you have an abandoned, you have those. Well, let's talk about things being kind of wrecked and abandoned. So it's late. The Sergeant Peterson and Trooper Ed are making their way to Gramp Johnson's store. Gramp can't be found. It looks a bit like the trailer. It's partially destroyed, right? There's stuff everywhere. It's a bit of a mess. The radio is playing in the back, and some coffee was recently brewed. They find Gramps' lever-action rifle gun on the floor. Then they find a dead Gramps. While investigating, they also find a drum of sugar that's been bust open on the floor. The sergeant says he's going to leave and do something, so Trooper Ed remains at the Gramps' store. We hear the high-pitched noise again. Trooper Ed slowly approaches the noise. He goes off screen to investigate. We hear the kind of the squealy, trilling noise. We hear gunshots and a scream. That's the end of that. That's the end of Trooper Johnson, so we believe. Can we just talk about Gramps' store?
Yes, yeah.
First, we get a good view of the cop car. Again, aesthetically, it's that old 50s look, so where the cars are huge. We also see a gas pump, which is aesthetically that vibe again.
Would you say that? Would you have that in as a separate point, the gas pump, or?
Well, I was thinking specifically, it's basically a drugstore, right? Like as they call it, like it's a mom and pop store, but it's Gramps' store. It is kind of one of those that you do find.
It reminded me of
you could loot the crap out of this place.
It specifically reminded me of the general store in New Vegas, in Goodsprings in New Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
First town that you enter, you've got a general store in there, and it looked almost exactly like that one.
Not just vibes of guns. This is specifically a lever action rifle. It's referred to as a 30-30. Yes. That's a repeater or whatever. That is a very specific gun in Fallout that they find there. Just throwing that in there for aesthetic. If we're doing specifics or broadly with the weapons that we have here. Okay,
I'll keep track of the weapons, and then we'll see. Yeah, we'll have that usual discussion at the end.
Okay, so next day, the sergeant is back at the station. Sergeant Peterson, that is. He's aware that Ed is vanished or gone. We don't know. He's just not around. He's disappeared. The trooper captain and the lab tech are here, and they're chatting. They don't know what to make of everything that's going on. People missing. They think it's murder. It turns out the trailer belonged to an FBI agent on vacation, so the FBI are now getting involved. We now get Agent Robert Graham showing up. He's not much use either. He doesn't really know what to make of it. He says he wants to send the footprint mold that they made, that they found, to Washington. The coroner then shows up and tells him the results of Gramps' autopsy, and he says there was enough fomic acid to kill 20 men. It's getting interesting. So there's a telegram. Agent Graham has been told that Doctors Medford, that's plural, Doctors Medford from the Department of Agriculture are making their way, and he should extend all cooperation. So Sergeant Peterson and Agent Graham are at the airport. They're waiting for the Medfords. We see them exit the plane one at a time. It's an old man, Dr. Medford. And then coming out afterwards is Dr. Medford, his daughter, a.k.a. Dr. Pat, or just Pat, I think we get called at certain times. Men weren't used to calling women doctors, as the general vibe we get from this. She's like, just call me Pat if it makes you feel better. There's a little bit of mild banter about Pat, and they move on pretty quickly, which I appreciate. They're moving on pretty quickly from, because it was like, don't get gross, dudes. Okay, so the gang is now back at the station. The doctors are getting filled in on some details, and they're being very coy about their suspicions. The doctor asks questions like, I think he asks like, so where were the atomic weapons tested near here? Like these types of things, asking about that. And he's not telling them anything. He's just asking questions. The doctors and the gang here, they're then visiting the mute girl from the beginning. So she's at a sort of hospital of sorts. She's still in shock and is mute. The daddy doctor puts a glass of fomic acid under her nose, and she snaps out of it, and she starts screaming, She runs and hides in a corner. Sergeant Peterson, who is super dad-coded, he goes and picks her up and comforts her. I really quite like Sergeant Peterson. He's like dad-coded in terms of he seems safe, and like, you know, he's like a 1950s dad that has super big hands, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like he's kind of that, and I think that's kind of his vibe here. If he's he's a decent man, that type of thing. He's also got a look about him that you like. He's a character actor, and it's like they don't make him with those faces anymore, right?
No, definitely.
It's so I quite liked him in this though. So the gang is now at the site of the trailer. The trailer's gone, but they're still kind of investigating. There's a bit of a storm. They're wearing some funny goggles. There's a bit of comedy with Dr. Medford not knowing how to wear goggles because he's old, I guess. And goggles are a new technology in the 50s, apparently. Cool. So there's a bit of back and forth between Dr. Pat and Agent Graham. We learned that Dr. Medford, her father, is one of the world's greatest myrmecologists. I don't know what that is.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Agent Graham is like, there you go. Why can't we just speak English? Like, because he doesn't know what that is either. He wants to be plain spoken, right? So the dad doctor is kind of still coy about his theory, but he tells Agent Graham and Sergeant Peterson that he doesn't want nationwide panic. We hear the high-pitched noise again. Dad doctor, Agent Graham, and Peterson are then looking for the source of the noise, and then Dr. Pat is just squatting somewhere, and she doesn't notice that there's a giant ant behind her. Pat shrieks. The men come to her rescue. They try shooting the ant with their pistols. Dr. Medford then tells them to shoot the antennae. It's useless without them, I think he says. Sergeant Peterson then rushes to his cop car and returns with a Thompson submachine gun and blasts the ant dead. The doctors fill the team in and let them know that ant kills with their stinger using fomic acid. This was probably a scout. Others might be behind. The high-pitched squeal returns, and then Dr. Medford quotes the Bible. That's the end of the scene there. So a lot has happened. There's a lot of back and forth and investigation since Gramp Johnson's.
Did we spot anything?
A lot of stuff, yeah.
Go.
So I think one thing is just general note on the location. I think just keeps doubling down on itself as the Mojave Wasteland. It looks aesthetically exactly like New Vegas, even though the main plot, the main quest that inspired this was inspired by this movie is from Fallout 3. So there's that. Let me see. So there was some aesthetic pieces. There's the guns that we've seen so far. So we've seen there was the opening. Was it a Smith & Wesson that you'd mentioned? The handgun.
It was a Colt.
Okay, Colt. Yeah, Colt handgun. You've got the 330 lever, and then you mentioned it as a Thompson submachine gun. Is that a Tommy gun? Basically, is that
that's a Tommy gun? It's without the round barrel, which you usually get in mobster movies. It's just a regular one, but without the round the magazine rather the drum. It doesn't have a drum. It's just a regular slotted in. But yes, a Thompson.
The Thompson, gotcha. And then
I think it's a 45 submachine gun. I think in Fallout.
Yeah, and then you've got the giant ant turns up.
The giant ant.
The giant ant is revealed.
What did you think of the look of it? For 1950s, it being mechanical and hairy, I kind of liked it.
Yeah, I thought it looked really good. Because I find a lot of this sort of era and a little before as well. Obviously, you had things like Godzilla, King Kong. That the creatures often look quite superimposed. It looks disjointed. Here it actually looked quite. It fit the visual of everything that's around it. It felt like it belonged there.
You'd think usually they'd be, you're right, superimposed, and highly maybe saturated in color, so you can't tell. But it's usually just a close up and it's superimposed. I'm thinking of stuff like the giant Gila monster, that type of stuff in movies. Or it's stop motion, but maybe it's not done so well, So I think they went kind of for a giant, mechanical wires and stuff. They show them kind of not close up, but they don't show the whole thing often, right? It's just like the front part of it attacking somebody. And then if they show the whole ant, it's usually further away or it's a dead one and it's static. So they kind of work to their limitations quite well.
No, exactly. So they look great. It's something inherently creepy as well about a creepy crawly, right? Especially when it's large. But yeah, those are a creature directly out of Fallout. Giant ants. They're not as big by default. The giant ants are maybe more like the size of a big dog. In Fallout,
these are ginormous.
These are huge, but you do get the ant queens in Fallout that are that big. So there's that, and then also I had a couple of points in random specifics when the cops are shooting at the ant for the first time. Firstly, shooting the antenna to disable them. That is specifically happens in Fallout as well, where if you shoot ants in the antenna, they frenzy and they start attacking one another, or they sort of cease to sort of have a distinction between friend and enemy. So the antenna shooting specifically to disable them was a point. And then I thought,
and limb damage, also limb damage.
So kind of related to that is that only because the Doctor is specifically saying target the antenna, and the cop switches to doing that. It reminded me of VATS, right? Like just that notion of going from just generally shooting at an enemy to specifically targeting a body part. I thought as a separate point, I think, and you're not going to find too many instances of, something that's close to VATS. I figured that was close enough to pop in a point for VATS.
I think it's the first VATS we've had. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Okay. So the gang are now in choppers and they're looking for the ant nest. Ant nest? Ant's nest. They're looking for a nest. Peterson and Medford Sr. are in one chopper. I actually thought these were planes until we saw the exterior shot. And then Agent Graham and Dr. Pat are in another. They say that there might be hundreds or even thousands living in the nest. They never know. There's a little bit of comedy with Dr. Medford, the senior, the older guy, trying to use the radio headset and saying, why do you have to say over and out and all this kind of nonsense. I guess his comedy was, simpler in the 50s. Dr. Pat spots a giant hole in the ground. They get closer and they can see there's an ant, a giant ant with a rib cage in its mandibles, and the remains of their missing persons, so they can see Trooper Ed's gun belt next to a skeleton, that type of thing. Dr. Medford is then in an office somewhere talking to a general. The doctor explains that timing is important. If they want to do bombing or any attack like that, it's got to be all about the right time. The ants don't like heat, and so they've been coming out at night. That tracks with what we learnt so far. They can either flood the nest, but there's no water line for about 20 miles, or they can use heat to drive them further down into the nest and then drop some cyanide in to kill them. And then they can wander in and they can confirm that they're dead afterwards. So that's the plan. What do we think about the plan?
I mean, it vaguely made sense. It was not especially dramatic, I'd say.
Are there any? There's never any plans like this in Fallout. There's no missions where you've got to go and because often you get missions and it's like, do it this way. You can chat to somebody and get something, or you can kill them, or you can stealth it. Is there any two-part attacks? I don't know.
I think not broadly like that. I think the plan, though, did start a point in genre for me, which is, and maybe I can jump into the quest here, is the quest follows the trajectory of needing to find the ant nest, just like in the Those quest in Fallout 3. And there's a few bits that add on as the plot unfolds. So I think I'll just use that as a jumping off point, just to give everyone a brief overview if you're not familiar. Fallout 3, small boy Brian Wilkes approaches the Lone Wanderer near Greyditch and basically asks the character to help find his father. You go to the town, you come across a scientist, Dr. Lesko, who, between that and the kind of quest of actually trying to find the father who turns up dead, you end up being sent off to an ant's nest to take out the ants. Basically, Dr. Lesko has some other motives. I won't go into that now. But yeah, the plot that we're getting here, you can see how it's inspired that quest in Fallout 3. The idea of these giant ants attacking an area and then needing to go and find the nests to deal with the situation, along with some scientific undertones.
Okay, so we're outside the nest now. Sergeant Peterson, Agent Graham, the General, and some other guys, I think. A lot of these guys in black and white have the same look and generic uniforms, so I don't always get every guy. So it might be the same person, or it might be some of two, but they're a bit indistinct, some of these generic white bread men. Okay, but anyway, they're at the nest and they're using rocket launchers to, I think, attack... is this them with phosphorus to try and drive into the nest? Either way, they're shooting rocket launches. Two guys in radiation suits then go over and investigate. An ant jumps out, makes a bit of noise. They scare it back in with guns and some gas grenades, I guess with cyanide as well. Peterson and Graham are then gearing up to head down into the nest. It wasn't particularly clear at this point, but I believe this was post-cyanide, so they've got gas masks on, and they're going to go in to clean up effectively and make sure everything's dead. Pat wants to join them. There's a little bit of pushback, because she's a dame or whatever, but she's going. They have gas masks, guns, and a flamethrower as they descend down with rope. Once they are below, they spot some dead giant ants. They spot some more. There's a little bit more of this. They use the rope again to get further and further and deeper into the tunnels. A couple of ants burst out of the walls because they were in a chamber safely, and they were flamethrowed to death pretty quickly, though, so that's the end of them. They make it to the Queen's chamber with, quote, with all the eggs. End quote. The eggs have already hatched, So what's worrying them is that they may have hatched and left the nest already. Pat tells them frantically to burn everything that there is there. So we now have... This would be a good point to, like, oh, great, movie's over. But they're worried. They're worried now of... There is 2 missing baby queens that have hatched already and have already left. So the movie now kind of pivots, right, into where are the queens? Where are the new queens?
Yeah, I quite liked that because knowing what the quest was like in Fallout and just general perceptions of what, how this kind of story unfolds, you'd expect the finale to just take place in this, one Ant Queen's chamber, and that's kind of it.
The big fight, right? Yeah.
Yeah, but actually it ends up going, in a slightly unexpected direction, which is quite neat.
Just a quick note, rocket launcher and flamethrower, not quite close enough. I was trying to look at them, and I even went on looking for models and stuff like this. I even went on the Internet Movie Firearm database to find what the rocket launcher was, and there's an M2 flamethrower, but yeah, I don't think they're quite close enough to what you get in.
Oh really? No, I would add them for sure. Yeah. Like rocket launcher definitely exists.
It does, but it's such a they're so a little bit sci-fi looking often the ones you get in Fallout. But
there's regular rocket launchers in Fallout for sure. And flamethrowers are specifically used in some.
Flamethrowers are flamers though, so these are backpack ones.
Yeah, but I think I would add that into the array of weapons. I think every single
non-specific array. Okay, it can go into that.
I think so. Yeah, not a specific weapon, but and I would add in grenades there as well.
Yeah, grenades. Wait. Gas grenades though.
No, but when they come across those first 2 ants at the nest mouth, they're tossing grenades that are exploding.
Did they explode? But I thought they were letting out gas because they got a sack of them, right? And I thought that's how they're going to flood it with cyanide, is to throw those down.
Yeah, that's what I assumed when they said it. But at least the way they've shot it, it looks like explosive grenades.
It might be. That might be a limitation of the movie making.
Maybe.
And also, like, how does your audience know that they're gas grenades if they don't explode like a grenade? I guess.
That's a fair point. There are no gas grenades in Fallout, as far as I'm aware.
So it's time for a post-mortem back at the station or wherever this office is. The empty eggs where the queen ants are, they're worried about them. They've got wings and they fly away. So where could they be? They don't know. The older doctor, Dr. Medford, is kind of giving we're fucked vibes. He's really worried. It's time to inform Washington General, I believe is what he says. So now we have a table of officials in Washington. The doctors, the Agent Graham, and an out-of-uniform Sergeant Peterson. I haven't mentioned his uniform up to now. He was in uniform up to this point. Which, let me circle back to that. Did you pay much attention to his uniform?
Not especially, no.
I was like, maybe it's a police uniform or like a responder's. He's got a bow tie. It's a police uniform because it's black and white. It's like he's got a black.
Is he an FBI agent in this?
That's Agent Graham. It's Sergeant Ben, the dad, Sergeant Peterson. So up to this point, he's been in his New Mexico police uniform, right, or trooper uniform.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought it was weird. It had a bow tie, and then because they've got pistols, he's got a gun belt for his pistol, and then it's got like little slots for the bullets. I just thought it was a really odd, like, throwback. Like, it's so mad to me, like that. Okay, so we're back with these generals, these officials, or whatever, and senators that they're being informed. Dr. Medford uses like a short film to kind of tell them about ants and their behavior. I think this is also for us, the audience, telling us they can lift 20 times their weight. They're the only creatures other than humans that make war. They are savage, so it's really important that we kill them and stuff like this. The doctor implores the men in their suits to find the queens before they establish colonies. Otherwise, the world could be ruled by ants within a year. A little bit of exposition, I think, there, but
I think it was necessary exposition actually, because I think the premise of the movie, like I think generally, like, just the idea of giant anything is going to be a little scary. But yeah, I mean, ants in particular, they're strong, they're clever, they have complicated societies. So like the exposition, I think, is necessary to kind of really drive home the fear factor of what the world would look like being overtaken by giant ants.
True. Is it telling and not showing?
Oh, it definitely is. But I think it fits within the context of the movie, right? Like you would realistically have to explain that, I guess. Why are ants a problem? They're not a problem. Okay, let's talk about it. Okay. There was a few points there as well, or a couple that I want to flag. One was just the Capitol building. The shot of the Capitol building is iconically associated with Fallout 3. So I had that down as a point. And then also cave exploration, just prior to that, when we had them
down in the nest.
Yeah, down in the nest.
There are caves, you're right. I forget about the caves in Fallout.
Yeah.
They're just absolutely caves. Yeah. Cave
and then I had a question for you. Obviously, I just jumped back a little bit, but when they are lobbing those debatable grenades down, it looks like they're wearing radiation suits.
Yes.
So I was going to add that as a point in aesthetics.
I think so. I guess they're all-purpose contamination suits.
Because they're distinct from the gas masks that they're wearing afterwards.
Yeah.
Those are like something different. So, yeah, that was just another point which, kind of folds into the fear factor that they're setting up for these officials.
Let's do it. Let's throw it in. So after the officials and stuff, I think the sense of time is indistinct here. So I think this is meant to be, they're basically saying we've got a year, otherwise we're doomed. And so this is time spent investigating, the press being nosy and nobody telling anything like that. So we kind of get that here right now. So there's a point where there's a senator getting into a car being pursued by a journalist, and he's asking him questions. The senator's not answering them, and they're saying, "But there's a lot of communication information in there. I know that. What's going on?" The journalist is very Diamond City. The outfit, he's kind of dressed like Mayor McDonough, and he's also a mixture of Piper and Nick Valentine. Just the kind of the way he speaks and stuff. So I kind of like that vibe they hear going there.
Going on inside there?
Sorry, boys, no comment.
There must be something you can tell us, Senator. I happen to know that all the news wire services, ATUPINS, all of them are sending their news in there and nothing's coming out. No newsmen are even being allowed in there. Now, what's the pitch?
Do you want to add that in as a point?
Let's throw it in. Yeah. Diamond City NPC. Yeah. Okay, so they're not telling anybody what's going on. The army, though, is monitoring communications, and they're trying to figure out anything that's been spotted. So as well as looking for, and I think they're not trying to panic anyone. So they're basically monitoring weird things. So when somebody says, "Hey, I saw a UFO shaped like an ant," they want to know, right? Rather than going, "You're crazy," they're going, "Yeah, we need to know about those weird things that people are saying." So they're trying to get leads. So there's a man in Texas who said he saw an ant-shaped flying saucer. Pat and Agent Graham visit him in Brownsville. He seems a bit off kilter because he's being kept in a psychiatric ward, I think. He tells them basically that they're heading west. He saw them heading west. And then that's really useful information. As they're leaving, Agent Graham tells the doctor at the psych ward to keep him locked up. I know it's for national security, but it's still a shitty move because they're like, we can't have him spreading this. He did say, "We'll let you know when to let him out," but yeah, that's kind of bad because the doctor says, "I was just about to let him go," and he's like, "No, you shouldn't do that." We also then get a sudden break because we're told that a nest had hatched on board a ship at sea, and so there were 2 survivors who were rescued. And they were told, they informed the Oklahoma, which was another ship, that there's ants on there. And so the army then bombed the ship and sunk it. So we now believe that of the 2 queens, a colony had hatched on a ship that is now sunk. So great, that's some progress. There's still 1 left. These scenes are also there's a lot of conversation and it's trying to lead you on the investigation with them. But there is also kind of a lot of talking and then a lot of nothing happens, but there's a lot of it. But it's also kind of curious and interesting. I do like the little investigation when it gets going. So right now we're in California, and a train car containing sugar was hit by ants. It sounds like it was like a raid or something. But Sergeant Peterson and Agent Graham are there. They're investigating, trying to figure out what's going on. Whilst they're in California, they question like whoever was meant to be guarding the sugar, and they get nothing from him. I think he was, he just wasn't paying attention or something. And then suddenly news about a dead body comes in where they're missing an arm. He was in a car and a few other things. So they investigate. The widow tells them he might have been heading to golf or to MacArthur Park or to the zoo with their kids. The kids have not been found. Only the body of what is, I guess, the dad. So they ask a local cop. So they speak to a local cop and say, "Do you have any early morning callers?" Right. So they're investigating anything weird that's happening during fun time. In the when it's in the evening and early morning. All they really get is they said they get two drunks and one woman who's an adulterer in a hurry, basically just trying to get home. That's why she's been arrested. So there's nothing there. They then speak with a third drunk at the psych ward. He rambles about ants and tells them the ants keep showing up in the river. Agent Graham then figures that the ants are hiding in the storm drains along the riverbed. So Agent Graham, Sergeant Peterson, and a couple of other generic-looking guys have a little look around. They find ant footprints. And the patrolman finds the kid's toy plane, and then they leave us with a bit of information telling us that there's over 700 miles of tunnels under the city. There's a lot going on there with this investigation, getting us to what they think might be the tunnels where they're hiding.
Do you feel
what
like
are we missing?
Do you feel like that sort of thing is, they've only got so much budget and time to be able to show ant action? That
it might be there's enough ant action, I guess. But I guess it's also got to be, I don't know, something. I don't know. Let's mention real quick. Oh, no, go for it.
No, the only thing I was going to say is just that overall, you're building up and accruing a lot of pre-war aesthetic, right? Like just everything that you're seeing looks and feels like a pre-war Fallout.
Yeah.
Mention,
so if you and I were to say riverbed, us two Brits, right? We'd think of a muddy river with some water.
Yeah.
This is very Fallout 4, I thought. It is. It's like in Greece where they have the little race. It's a long stretch of concrete, high kind of banks and stuff, and storm drains.
You know what it reminds me of is on the video game note. It's Grand Theft Auto. Like that's what I associate that location with is Grand Theft Auto. Yeah, like I would never call that a riverbed.
No,
I didn't know what they were, but like a canal, right?
That's
like a canal.
Yeah, but like human, like purpose human built. But it's very Fallout 4. I'm throwing that in location. The storm drains. Drains. It's when you're there's like bridges over the top of them, but then they usually run into one giant tunnel, and then when you're out of the tunnel, you have these long stretches of concrete with the high barricades. So storm drains. I think that's definitely
it's very America.
That's wait, where do we put locations? Is that a genre?
Environment.
There we go. Perfect. Okay. I made a note. Tasteful depiction of the drunk guy. Like he's just raving and okay. I think that's maybe some comedy in there. Okay, so there's a press event and an emergency broadcast where they're finally telling everybody what's happening. California is now under martial law with a curfew, so everybody's home and safe before the ants are out. The broadcast details what's going on up to now. We also get then a montage, as I mentioned earlier, of the military coming through the city, people listening to the news on the radio and on TVs, and it's just, loads of aesthetic. It's just loads of Fallout pre-war aesthetic just going on there, outfits, everything.
Something I was wondering here earlier on as well, they mentioned the kind of not wanting to have hysteria and panic. You get that a lot in movies, not even specifically from this era, just throughout up until the invention of the internet. It feels weird to me now, like the idea of nationwide panic setting in a time when you don't have such 24/7 at your fingertips news, you know? Like, I wonder how that would spread. Maybe because it spreads in a more slow person-to-person way, maybe that makes it more nefarious, whereas now we're so desensitized, maybe that's what it is. But, like, it doesn't feel... I always think, how would that settle in?
Well, it's interesting in this, when everyone's been told about it, they're all just a bit cold. They're not panicking. There's no rioting in the streets. They're being told about it, and the military driving through, and they're kind of just looking at the radio, and then maybe they're looking at the military, but they're all pretty calm. They're all maybe shocked about it, maybe different time. So the military are now mounting up in these, storm drains, this riverbed. They're getting ready to go underground and take a look. They don't want to bomb the tunnels, as the 2 kids are still missing, and they might be down there. Somebody asks, "What are we really going to risk the lives of everybody in the city for 2 kids?" The mother is nearby, and Sergeant Peterson says, "Well, why don't you go and ask the mother? She's there." And the guy was just like, "Yeah, sorry, I was being a jerk." But okay, so they don't want to just set fire to the place as well, because they want to be able to confirm if there's any more queens and if they've hatched. So they don't want to just bomb the place. They need to be able to confirm that they've got everything. So they have to go in on the ground, so to speak. So the military, plus Graham and Peterson, they're all in their military gear. They jump in their jeeps and they start driving through the tunnels. The final search begins. So they're all driving through and looking for things. Peterson hears some noises. It doesn't sound like ants. It's the kids. He finds them alive. He finds them hiding in a narrow passage. He can't quite reach them, and then he hears trilling and the squeal of ants and the smell of acid. Ants. So Peterson calls on his radio where his location is, so he can confirm that he's found it, basically. So basically, we know where the nest is. We can now take some action, because, again, there's 700 miles under the ground, apparently. It's great. So we get some troops driving to Rushing to meet him. The tunnels are tight, but Peterson manages to use his flamethrower to kill the ants. He helps the 2 kids escape and hides them in a tunnel before he is then caught by an ant in their mandibles, which we were told earlier can crush. So he starts getting crushed. Graham and some troops come along and they shoot the ant and kill it. We then have Peterson using his dying words to tell Graham where he hid the kids and that they're okay. Such a dad. Final words there. He's great. The troops blast the ants. They cannot risk using cyanide, as they could poison the whole city, so they have to just go in and kill and flame everything now. The troops slowly march through the tunnels in search of the Queen and her chamber. They eventually find a big queen and they shoot her dead, as you do. They then find a bunch of winged babies just doing nothing, just like, oh yeah, we're winged babies. They basically just confirm, do we kill them? Do we kill them? Pat and Dr. Medford show up and are like, yeah, kill them. I thought it was kind of callous because they're like little babies and they're just staring at them like, what's going on, guys? What's going on? And they just burn them. Then Agent Graham asks,
Pat, if these monsters got started as a result of the first atomic bomb in 1945, what about all the others that have been exploded since then?
I don't know.
Nobody knows, Robert. When man entered the atomic age, he opened a door into a new world. What we'll eventually find in that new world, nobody can predict.
End of movie.
Wow.
The thought of entering the atomic world, that's got to be quite Fallout, right?
Yeah, so I had my final point for the movie was it ultimately it sort of teases at this throughout the movie, and then it kind of confirms it with that final monologue. It's a nuclear bomb morality tale, right? Like,
yeah,
it is that, which is effectively what Fallout is. So I had a point, that point in genre for that. A lot of the final sort of showdown aesthetics are quite World War coded, aren't they? It looks a lot like fighting in the trenches, I found, which you don't really see much of in Fallout, I don't think, although you do get trenches in Fallout 3.
I wasn't connecting that myself, but I'll take it.
I don't. I wouldn't include it as a point, but it definitely had that look, right, of like World War, trench warfare. What did you think of the sort of conclusion from a Fallout perspective? Was there anything else in there that you teased out? I feel like it tapers off a little, right?
I think so, yeah. You don't think it was... was this 54? When did the Korean War start, and when did America get included?
Yeah, like 1950.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not... If it's anti-war, anti-Korean War, I guess it wasn't very heavy on that. Unless it's a metaphor for giant ants being North Korea? I don't know.
No,
communists
like preempting the sort of Cold War type stuff. Yeah, for sure.
I think they mentioned the Cold War, right? Like, because there's a bit of paranoia from the journalists, and they're like, "Has the Cold War gotten hot?" I think somebody yells or something. Yeah. There's definitely that there.
There's that thread through there. I think the only other point I had in there towards the end was just the giant ant queen, separate to the giant ants. That's a very direct. That's almost like a named NPC equivalent of the giant
boss. Yeah, the boss. Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah.
All right, so that was them from a Fallout perspective. We've got our points in here. We'll go through and recap each of the categories, see if there's anything that we've missed, anything that we want to remove, consolidate, debate. So, should we jump into it?
Let's do it. Let's talk genre.
Yeah. So for genre, I've got 3 points in there right now. Mutations caused by the first atomic bomb. So actually, I don't think I mentioned this when it occurred, but that scientists specifically, dad scientists specifically, mentions that this may be caused and is ultimately confirmed to have been caused as mutations of the first atomic bomb.
Mutations, I'd count it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Whether you include that in genre or random specifics, I think is probably another question. Yeah, I don't know.
It's a plot thing. It's a plot.
Yeah, like it's
I'd
not
say so.
It's not
Yeah.
like a specific, not like the solar powered one that we had in Urban Warriors.
Yeah, Urban Warriors,
which was very specific. Quest follows the trajectory of the Those Quest. I mean, the Those Quest, obviously, as with its name, is a direct callback to this movie. You've got the giant ants, you've got the nest, the ant queen. You've also got the sort of scientific pursuit alongside the main mission to exterminate. So there's plenty of parallels. There's the kid. It doesn't follow exactly though. In those, they are fire-breathing ants. So there's that little extra added element to them. And then third point was the nuclear bomb morality tale. So I think those were pretty locked in on. Was there anything else that you had for genre?
No, I think that's it. It's coming to mind now, interestingly. Just now we're talking about nuclear bomb morality. He ends with the kind of the morality here, but when he starts first realizing that they're screwed, right? Like, oh no, the Queens have got out. He quotes the Bible, the Doctor, right? And so it's just interesting how it kind of, the morality is like, it's kind of interesting. I don't know. Like,
it's just that era, isn't it? It's very sort of.
But is it
America conservatism kind of?
Is it the idea that as we enter a new age, that morality doesn't fit? Is that kind
of what he's alluding to? I didn't really.
Maybe, I'm not sure.
I didn't think about it too much, but yeah, it's kind of, you do get a little bit of that in Fallout. It's kind of interesting, right? Like, Fallout doesn't have specific religious imagery in there that much. You get a little bit of it at the beginning of Fallout 3, where I think your dad quotes something from the Bible, but real world religions aren't really referenced heavily. You do get obviously fictitious ones, but yeah.
I think he's he's one of the world's greatest myrmecologists. I think he takes a scientific view on the world, but I think he leans on morality from the Bible. So
there we go.
Anyway.
All right, so random specifics. We've got the quest starts with a kid, like in those.
Yeah.
We've got an abandoned ruin location, the caravan, the store.
Yeah, a couple of them. Yeah.
Yeah. Although, sorry, that's actually in the wrong category though. I've got that in environment, so ignore that. We've got shooting the antennae to disable them, and then the targeting body parts like VATS. So we've got 3 points in random specifics. Was there anything else that you wanted to include in there?
No, I was trying to think if there's anything for random events. Or random specifics, sorry. I don't think so. I think you got them covered. I was trying to think if there was anything about the investigative part of this when they're roaming around trying to find clues.
Yeah.
Like, that feels like a gameplay aspect when you're looking for things, right?
Yeah.
And you're trying to make decisions. Like when you're following whoever the kind... Nick Valentine, or when there's one where you're following the dude who... I can never remember his name. In Fallout 4... where you're like, he got into a fight, here's his bloody bandages, and then you keep following and following, and you find, here's his favourite cigar. I don't think it's close enough, but I was trying to think if that was... Do you think... But then again, collecting clues is part of it, right? You have to solve one by finding some holotapes, right, and listening to them.
Yeah, I think that it's too high level in this movie. Like, in this movie, it's very much like a department is running an investigation. Whereas in Fallout, the most that you get is an individual looking for clues for a specific, like in a very sort of finite way. So I wouldn't say it's close enough.
It's personal though. Sergeant Peterson's a trooper. Why is he worried about national security? It's just that he's involved and he's... You know.
I feel like that's going back to the kind of audience that you're going for. It's that kind of like middle America type, where they'd always, no matter how high up something goes, you got to get a middle America good, respectable policeman in the 1950s, that kind of thing.
That's fair.
Okay, so we got 3 in random specifics. I thought we'd have more, actually, because I was thinking there might be more parallels to the quest, but actually the quest only has those sort of high-level beats.
Yeah.
I was thinking, because in the quest, you kill... now, it's not even that long ago that I played it, because I started replaying Fallout 3 when we started this project. I think it's like you kill the queen or something like that, and then the rest of the ants kind of frenzy and stuff. So, and they die. I can't remember exactly how it happens now, but there's that kind of... What's that trope called where you kind of kill the queen and then the rest just kind of...
Scatter, yeah.
Scatter, that trope. But there's none of that really in there. It's just the ants, the kid, the nest, that kind of level.
Yeah.
All right. So, but we maxed out an environment. So we've got the Mojave Desert.
Mm-hmm.
We've got Johnson's General Store, looking like the one in Good Springs, and generally looking like a lot of the stores that you loot in Fallout.
Yep.
Abandoned ruin location. You got the caravan, the store, which is noteworthy, especially considering it's not a post-apocalyptic film. Although the apocalypse is alluded to, so I don't know if maybe that's something that would be relevant in random specifics. Because the Doctor kind of references...
Well, it was
ants
like...
take over, it'll be an apocalypse, basically.
We had this... I think we had this discussion in The Phantom, right? In that it's pre-World War II, I think, and they're talking about the world being on the brink.
Yeah.
Right? And it's the same thing of, like, it could be on the brink.
Yeah.
But we don't see that.
Too general. Okay, so... abandoned ruin locations, and then we've got cave exploration, the nest location. I think that's fairly strong. The Capitol building, very direct, iconic call out. And then we've got the storm drain / riverbed as a specific call back to Fallout 4.
Yeah.
Was there anything else that you had?
I can't think of anything else for environment. I think you got them covered.
Cool. All right, and then aesthetics.
There was a lot, right? But it was
more,
broad. That's the thing of, like, there was so much, but it was also so broad and so brief.
So I guess pre-war aesthetics, yeah, because I think that if it was in any other context, there's been other movies like in Mad Max. There's like the canned dog food and stuff like that. So that's a very specific thing.
Or the road levers. He's wearing specifically the road levers, right?
Yeah,
that kind of thing.
Those things are occurring out of context, whereas here all of the pre-war stuff is in context of the movie, right? Like it's set in that period, so you'd kind of expect everything to look like Fallout, and it does, and that's kind of the way where you're almost like this is so strong it counts as 2 points, like it. But I don't think anything is specific enough to count as multiple points. But I guess just as a call out, you've got like ambulance, the planes, the clothes, the dialogue, even a lot of the dialogues, the way they speak sounds like those sort of pre-war radio plays that you'd have in holotapes and things. So all of that pre-war aesthetics is a point. And then weapons, we've got 330 lever action.
So just to clarify, if anybody's unsure, pre-war Fallout, post-war America, because it's the 50s, it's post-Second World War. Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah.
So weapons wise, we've got a bunch. We've got a lever action rifle. We've got Smith and Wesson handguns, submachine guns, rocket launchers, potentially grenades, flamethrowers. So I think there's a whole array of weapons. Is there anything that you'd want to pull out of there as being like specific enough to count as an extra point, like as a unique weapon?
There's no unique weapon really. They go back to the submachine gun a lot. But it's not necessarily
10mm specifically, like
but it's also I think it's very specifically one that you can find in Fallout. The same with the lever action rifle, but it's not a legendary weapon, let's say that necessarily. Well, then again, no, isn't it basically Lincoln's repeater, the lever action?
Yeah, but I think that's probably I mean, maybe. I don't know guns well enough, to be honest. I don't want to annoy any gun dudes.
Yeah, it's not. That's a specific one. Yeah, that's fine. Let's go. Let's throw them in. All right. Okay, that's fine. Unless it's a featured gun, it's just aesthetic gun. Okay.
Yeah, I would say it's a very strong point, though, right? In the sense of this movie, more than a lot, has an array of weapons. So you've got that there. I've got radiation suits. So I think that's quite specific. And then I also had the ham radio playing in the background. So this is the scene where they are going to the general store and there's a radio playing a broadcast, and that, separate from the other pre-war aesthetics, I think that I would definitely pull out as a very specific motif of Fallout. You go into a location, there is a radio playing in the background. It's part of the kind of sound design of exploration a lot of the time. So
I'd say yes, but I'm going to say throw it under random events rather than aesthetic.
Well, we've included sound and visuals in aesthetics as part of that. But
this is a specific well, it's not environment, but it's a specific. You walk into a room and there's a radio playing that someone's left on. I feel like that's a gameplay part because you're meant. And I don't think it does that for me, but I think you're meant to think somebody's here, right? Like, it's a mechanic.
I think I would keep it under aesthetic because I think it's the, for me, it's not calling a specific gameplay element, although it does feed into it. But I think it feeds into it in the same way that like the radio does. If you're playing the radio on your Pip-Boy, that might feed into the sort of gameplay loop of you exploring and playing your radio in the background kind of thing. But
it's more the movie is doing the same as the game, which is it's telling you somebody's here, and then they're not here because the radio is playing because Gramps Johnson was listening. And it's the same thing. I think or am I wrong? When you're playing Fallout, if you go into a building and the radio is playing, are you supposed to think somebody's here?
I don't associate it with that one way or the other. I think but I think if I do, it's probably more one of desolation because it's a signals abandonment, right? That something is playing.
But is it that it's been playing for 200 years, or has it been playing because someone's been listening and they just got shot?
Yeah, that's true. But that's the thing. I don't think I associate it specifically with I would just keep it in as like it's just a sound motif
Okay.
that exists. So ham radio.
See, I want to disagree, because it is for me, it is a gameplay element, but it is also a plot element of the movie. It's the same when they're investigating. Everything is off here. There's a pot of coffee that's just brewed. The radio is on. They check the cash register, and it's like there's money in there still.
But then I think
everything is off. It's part of the investigation, and I feel like it's the same with when you're playing the game. It's a clue. It's a hint.
I don't think so. No, I don't think it's in the game. I agree with you in the film.
In the film, but in the movie, it's
games.
immaterial. You're saying, well, if there's a radio playing, it's just vibe.
I think mostly it's vibe. There may be contexts in which it might be specific, but mostly it's just that vibe.
Do we think it's that, or do we think it's that? Up until this point, you and I have never thought that it's meant to be plot specific when playing the game. Like the radio's playing,
maybe,
but like because you've already got the radio playing on the Pip-Boy, that is just like, I don't listen, I don't care, right? Or you're not paying attention to it until you've already killed everybody in the room, and then it's just like, oh, the radio's on. Like you don't. Is it that? Do you think? I don't know. It's got to be here, but whether it's not, if it's random event or aesthetic, I'll leave it under aesthetic for now. But it's the validity is it should be there, but the location I might dispute later on.
Okay, well that's where wherever you're listening to this, leave us a note in the comments or reach out to us at podneverchanges@gmail.com, whether you think the radios in Fallout are an aesthetic vibe thing, or whether they are more specific than that. Are they more of a gameplay?
They can be both.
They can be both, yeah.
Is my well, I'm thinking about it now. That it might be both.
Yeah.
But anyway.
And I think this fall into the pre-war aesthetics. I'm not sure. So in the store there was the cash register and the pre-war money, or just money as it is in this movie. It was just so exactly like that. That's such a distinct thing that is a looting loop in Fallout, going into those cash registers, and it looks exactly like the ones in Fallout. But does that fall into the rest of the pre-war aesthetic stuff, or
it's pre-war aesthetic? If you're thinking about money as a utility, I think you might be edging towards debuff, in as much as they're saying it has value here, and that's why they're checking for it. They're even at the trailer, when they're looking through what's going on, they find cash just left on the floor, which is why they're like, weird. Why is there cash if this was a robbery? And then same with Gramps' store.
Not so much the money itself, but the cash register. The actual register is very like.
I say again, I think it's still aesthetic. Because like when they're at the hospital looking for the kid, I made a note that like, wow, those look like the hospital beds.
Yeah. I think it's a personal thing of like the registers are very like iconic looting spot for me. Okay, cool. So we've got in aesthetic then 4.
Sweet. Tribes is next.
Yes, we've got 3 in here. Giant ants, the Diamond City NPC, kind of like Piper, Nick, and then we've got the Giant Ant Queen. I think the Giant Ants and Giant Ant Queen, I think, count for sure. Those are 2 distinct things that are. I'm
gonna keep the Diamond City NPCs, but I think move them into. Because I think they're a vibe. I say move them into aesthetic. You just hear them and you see them. There's no plot point. They're not really those characters. They're NPCs, right? But they're a vibe or a sound. I keep saying vibe, but they're an aesthetic, an audio aesthetic, and a visual aesthetic. So I'm going to say move them from tribes into aesthetic. So then aesthetic is 5.
Sweet. Okay.
So I think we should keep them, but then giant ants, yes, obviously, and having a specific giant ant queen boss, yes, I think also.
Anything else for tribes?
No, I was thinking about the idea of because of companions in terms of is Peterson and Peterson and Graham, are they kind of companions at a certain point? But I don't think so, in as much as for me the lead, the lone wanderer, and the sidekick, the companion, was very vague through this movie for me, because I kind of took it as Sergeant Peterson, and then when he died it was like, so wait, is the hero Agent Graham, who's kind of just done nothing?
I kind of just took it as like a foursome, like the kind of the scientist duo and those two.
It's a team effort. There's no companion. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, any debuffs for you?
No. I was thinking about this. Maybe there is one, but no. I couldn't I couldn't commit to anything. I don't think. No. What about you?
I think I agree. I think the overall the vibe of that pre-war vibe emanating through everything just makes it all. Anything that you could call out as being a little unFallout like, it's kind of baselined by this general vibe of very Fallout like NPCs and aesthetics and all sorts.
So let's just recap quickly the score. We've got genre 3 points, we have random specifics 3 points, environment 6, aesthetics 5, tribes 2, 0 on the debuff, so that gives us a total of 19 points. So, right now we're on episode 10 of season 1. That means that for 19 points, this is now going to go into 6th place. So, below Tank Girl and above The Bad Batch.
Nice.
Not a bad place.
Yeah, it felt like quite a Fallout movie. And obviously, you never know when it's triggered by a specific quest being inspired by the movie. You don't know how overall, how overall the rest of the movie is going to be Fallout, but we end up getting quite a few little tidbits throughout. So we've looked at it from the Fallout perspective. Now we're going to jump into how we felt about the movie generally. What were your thoughts on it?
So from a non-Fallout lens, I'm kind of mixed, because I kind of, my expectations, I think I said like maybe it was a bit schlocky because it's giant creature film, but it was
it's not.
It was pleasant surprise.
Yeah.
I remember so I watched it twice, and both times, oddly enough for me, the first maybe 10 minutes I felt really quite engrossed by, because I was enjoying, because it's about giant ants, from the poster, from everything, it's going to be about giant ants. And so, like, the investigation is kind of null, but I just quite enjoyed Sergeant Peterson doing a bit of police work.
Yeah.
And it was quite engrossing. It was just like, the ants will come along, I'm sure. But I just liked him rooting around, the logical conclusions he came to, and I quite enjoyed it. And I enjoyed that part of the movie. The ants themselves were quite well made, like we said, and they kind of, shot around their limitations. I felt like the middle stretch post, blowing up the first nest, it got a little busy with not a lot happening.
Yeah.
But I think they then picked it up, and I enjoyed it. It's full of like the drunk notwithstanding, like quite nice characters. Like they're all very 1950s, but they're all I knew who they were, and I believed them and what they had to say.
You can often judge actually the movie off, especially from this era, of how it treats its female character, like the main female character. Usually there is only one, but she's quite like, obviously she initially gets judged and doesn't, they're like, don't want to take her down into the nest, but she comes across as very smart and strong, and she's depicted that way, not over the top. So she just seems like a real character, and I feel like that's overall just how the movie approaches everything. It's kind of got a respectable approach to the way even the ants are depicted, and like the action and the way that all unfolds and the investigation. It takes itself quite seriously and kind of in a respectable way, if that makes sense.
They're progressive. They're progressive, but not overly so. So, like when she's
it's
the first
still
person,
Middle America values, but
she's the first person to get approached by the giant ants, and she screams. To be fair, she's taken aback, but also like she's the only person. Well, no. There's 4 people there: herself, her dad, and then the agent Graham and Sergeant Peterson, and those 2 are carrying. So she can't do a lot whilst they're shooting. So she's probably going to keep out the way of the bullets and the ants. So and then Dr. Medford doesn't do anything there anyway, does he? Other than say shoot for the antennae. But like there's like a little bit of that. And like when they're like, you're not going down there, you're absolutely not. I guess it's also part of me was like, oh, okay, is it because she's a woman? It's also that she's a civilian, right? Like you have a cop and you have an agent in their military gear about to go down into a nest and stuff. So I guess it's that as well. But then her being like, you need me, and negotiating that, or not even negotiating, so it's not negotiable.
Yeah,
I'm going, and it's just like so. It's progressive. It's not leaps and leaps forward, but you're right. It's they allow her to be progressive and to be competent, capable, smart, and not what's the Simpsons doll say?
I'm just a girl.
Like it's not that. It's
exactly.
She has a bit of agency here.
But I mentioned that just say it feels like that's a microcosm for how the movie treats like all of its subject matter. It's kind of not schlocky. It's not kind of cheap. So what would you score it?
It tries to be thoughtful, which I quite like.
Yeah.
It's that slog in the middle bothered me, but I quite liked it, and the fact that I was a little bit upset when Sergeant Peterson died tells me that it affected me and it had that quality to the film. So I feel like it's pretty good. I'm going to go 4 out of 5.
Yeah, I was hovering between a 4 and a 3.5. Exactly for the reason that you were saying. I think I do kind of try and factor in that it's made in 1954, released in 1954, and so it's very impressive what they do. From the way in which they depict the ants, they're generally quite unsettling in some scenes, and that is just because there's an inherent, I think, reaction to something that's creepy crawly. So it's quite effective. It's depicted very well, and so like based on that makes me bump it up. I may change my mind afterwards as I sort of think about it. I'm hovering between a 3.5 and a 4, just because I then look at it from a pure enjoyability point of view, and I think that where the action pieces occur, they're very good and entertaining. There is just that lull, and I don't find the investigation especially compelling, but it's competent. So I think I'll go. I think I'll match you on the 4 out of 5. Yeah,
nice, great movie.
Sweet. All right. We do a little to bring things back to Fallout a little bit. Obviously, this movie is directly referenced in Fallout, but how is it that you would mod Fallout?
I struggled with this in terms of the plot of trying to it goes cross country, so trying to replicate searching for giant ants. I feel like that's kind of difficult to replicate. So I usually try and throw a gameplay aspect into this, but I think I'm just going to reduce it to the bow tie cop outfit and the Colt special, whatever it is. So guns. I think that's I think Daddy's Gear is what I think I'm going to have to do for.
Is that what it's called as well? Is it called Daddy's Gear?
Daddy's Gear. Yeah. I think so, and there'll be like I say, he's got dad hands. It's going to be a +2 to strength for the outfit,
Yeah.
And VAT's accuracy improved with the pistol, right? You got to shoot those antenna.
Nice.
That's it for me. What about you?
It's difficult, right? Yeah, because it is directly referenced. You can't have a quest that's around the ants because you already have that. I think maybe introducing a new creature, a variant of the ants, because I liked the ant UFO thing, and I was actually going to
flying ants. Yeah,
I was going to mention the UFOs as a potential Fallout point because UFOs do pop out in the Fallout 3 DLC.
UFOs are also seasonal in Fallout 76.
There we go. Yeah. So I was going to mention it, but obviously they don't. That it ends up just being used as a term to kind of refer to the flying ants. So yeah, I would introduce a flying ant queen enemy that kind of marauds, and you have to take it down from the ground.
Like it, flying ant queen. Yeah, that'd be tough. Weak to flame, of course.
Yeah. Alrighty.
And only coming out at night. Yeah, that'd be fun.
Exactly. So, you've picked out our next movie.
I have.
What is it?
So it's a movie. I've not seen this movie. It's been on a list. Well, it's been on a list. It's interesting, right? Because there's a Fallout connection, I think, for me. That's double one, as well as genre and all about it. So, from 1976, directed by Richard T. Heffron, it is Future World.
Oh, okay. This movie's popped up on my sort of letterboxd a few times recently through various contexts.
So here's some context. Okay, so here's the future. Here's the letterbox kind of summary. Is this you, or are you? 2 years after Westworld tragedy in Delos Amusement Park, the corporate owners have reopened the park following over $1 billion in safety and other improvements. For publicity purposes, reporters Chuck Browning and Tracy Ballard are invited to review the park just prior to arriving. However, Browning is given a clue by a dying man that something is amiss.
I can't lie, the premise actually sounds a little duller than I was expecting.
You know what? This is not the summary I think I was looking at before. Basically, I think there's one that says what it might be amiss is that if Future World is the sequel to Westworld, right? And so in Westworld they have like replicated humans, right? They have like humans that look like they have robots that look like humans, so synths. And I think the idea is that synths might be replacing the president or something.
Right.
Is the idea. And the reason I went for Future World is also that because of the Westworld connection. Westworld, the TV show, was created by Jonathan Nolan.
Yes. Yeah.
And so obviously there's an influence there, I think probably with Fallout maybe as well. And I'm wondering if we will see things from Future World that influenced the Fallout movie.
Yeah, I'm curious.
The Fallout TV show. We're doing the movie.
I think knowing the relationship with Westworld, and I'm seeing some of the stills from the movie right now, and I'm intrigued based on that. So we've got Future World from 1976 as our next potential most Fallout movie ever.
Yeah, sci-fi western espionage. That sounds pretty Fallout to me.
Well, this has been Them. I've been LJ, and you've been Ricky. It's a goodbye from me.
Goodbye from me.
See you everyone. Bye.
Bye.